Welcome to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, where owners of privately held middle market companies talk about founding, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Learn how to maximize and monetize your business on your own terms. Let's get started.
Hello, I'm Heather Bennett, your host for Growth Plus Exit, the podcast featuring middle market owners and experts talking about founding, scaling, and exiting businesses successfully. This episode is brought to you by Newport LLC, a team of seasoned C-suite executives who help CEOs of privately held companies grow, de-risk, and exit their businesses successfully. To work with us, visit newportllc.com. Today, I have Chad Franzen from Rise 25, who is a professional at interviewing and has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business professionals. We have flipped the script today, and Chad will be interviewing me. So, Chad, welcome to the program, and I'm ready to start whenever you are.
Okay, sounds good. Great to be here with you, Heather. I talked to you once previously, you and Susan, on a previous episode, and I'm looking forward to kind of diving in a little deeper into some of the things that we talked about, starting now with personal branding. Mm-hmm. Can you give me a quick definition of personal branding and tell me what inspired you to focus on it as part of your career?
Yeah, so personal branding is every way you show up both online and offline. It envelops everything from your appearance to your publications to how you show up for your customers or clients. And the best personal brands are consistent across all media forms and whether you're meeting somebody in person or not. How I started working, I would say, and getting to really understand personal branding. Decades ago, I was in CPG marketing, so consumer packaged goods marketing, and focused on the brands. I applied that branding when I started getting clients who were executives, business owners that I was working with to improve their businesses, and recognized that those business owners were the most important part of the brand of the company, and that their own persona and that their personal, at the time we didn't use the term, it was many decades ago, personal branding, but it was so important to the success of the company. So I started developing methods to understand that, to communicate that, and to help my clients better use their personal brand to reach the company's goal.
When a new client comes to you, is their personal brand something that they've often thought about? Like what percentage of new clients come to you and say, "Oh yeah, I've been developing my personal brand for a while now"?
Almost never. What I will say is that people are more aware of how they represent themselves. And I think that's due to the importance of LinkedIn and networking, and the fact that we've transitioned so much business is virtual and is done over Zoom calls. So there's a little more of an awareness of aspects, we'll say, of personal branding.
Can you share maybe some elements that make a personal brand stand out in today's market?
Certainly. The most important thing, and most of my colleagues in this area would say the same, is authenticity. Your personal brand should represent who you are. It's not a facade that you put on for business, or it really should connect with who you are personally. The other aspect I would say that's important, and I mentioned this before, is consistency. When you show up, it should be the same person every single time, whether they're seeing you talk in front of an audience or write a blog article or do a project for a company. There should be a consistency to how you show up.
So it's more important to show up as your authentic self, not your perfect self.
Yes, absolutely. And as most leaders know, there is strength in being vulnerable. So it's okay if your authentic self is not perfect.
So how does personal branding kind of play a role in career transitions?
Oh, absolutely. So you think about a career transition, and that's a unique stage in someone's life. You're looking for a job, you're trying to get that promotion, you're trying to get noticed or cross into a new industry. At that point, you are essentially selling yourself. And you need to create those billboards that get out the message to the people who could possibly hire you or who want to work with you. So a career transition, most people think of the basics. You want to clean up your resume. You want to clean up your LinkedIn. You want to have the right business cards with you. You want to make sure you're prepared to have that elevator pitch of what you're looking for. So all of those elements are aspects of the personal brand. And by consciously thinking about how you build those, you'll be more successful with your career transition.
So let's talk about how personal branding can apply to entrepreneurship or leadership. Maybe what are some challenges that entrepreneurs face when starting their business, and how can their personal brand assist them in overcoming those challenges?
Yeah, so a big part about starting a business is understanding how to fund it, how to grow it, how to scale it, how to get to, because a business is only successful if you're able to actually sell the product or services. And a founder or an entrepreneur who has a strong and clearly memorable personal brand that is tied in some ways to that company will be much more successful. And that is because they are the number one salesperson. And often for a long time, startups start very small because they don't have the funding or the ability to have 100 salespeople. And when that happens, that makes that role and the personal brand of that founder, that entrepreneur, so much more important because they are the ones that are directly going out to build the brand and to build the company. They're making every sale. They're making sure every sale works well.
When it comes to leadership, how do you kind of define courageous leadership, and how can personal branding play a role in that in empowering leaders?
Oh, absolutely. And I think this goes back to what we talked about earlier, with that vulnerability and that authenticity. Courageous leadership is to be honest and transparent with your employees. I mean, now we're seeing such a shift in the employee-employer relationship. And a lot of it has to do with, two things, trust and communication. If you have a leader who's courageous enough to be authentic and honest and transparent and let their employees or the rest of the company know when they don't feel confident or when they don't know everything, that's really where that courageous leadership comes through.
I've worked for some bosses where I would have a question for them, and I could almost tell like they're trying to sound like they have an answer when they really don't. And I would have preferred that if they just said, I don't know, or I'll figure it out, or you can ask somebody else. Do you find that that's maybe a common, maybe fallback for some leaders, like, oh, I need to sound like I know everything?
Yeah, and that's a hard thing. I mean, we're all human. We all have egos and we want to show up and be our best self and be our perfect self all the time. I mean, that's, you talk about having that perfect Instagram life and what that looks like. And even before social media, there is something when you are the leader of a company, there's a certain expectation or weight of having to be the one who says everything's going to be okay. And I know what's going on and we've got the strategy. I think there's a unique balance with that because you do need to have that confidence and that strength. But at the same time, it's going to be believed and trusted, that confidence, strength, if you show up authentically. And if you say, you know what, I don't know that answer right now, but let's find out. And like, what do you think? And listening, because communication is a two-way street.
Mm-hmm. So in your experience, what are maybe some strategies that are effective for aligning leadership goals with a business's mission?
Oh, that's a good question. It's something I've found is really important for keeping employees engaged and also keeping leaders on track with those goals is to continue to go back to the mission. Why are we here in the first place? And even though you may have quarterly goals or annual goals, if you can continually tie those back to the mission and the purpose and why this company was created, you'll be more likely to keep your customers happy, keep your employees engaged, keep your leadership team focused on what's important as opposed to going after shiny objects. So I think that's where a leader needs to be the primary communicator of that connection.
Can you give me maybe like a practical example of what that looks like? tying those goals in with a mission?
Absolutely. So you have a mission of a company that produces, we'll say, jams and jellies. Good example, right? So if their goal is to provide a sweet and welcoming and memorable way for families to start their morning through, a good breakfast jam or jelly, and that's maybe like their mission is making every morning special.
Mm.
And if you continually think about that moment where the customer has, and like if your mission is to make that moment memorable and wonderful, then that means everything you do across the company needs to guide back towards that. And it should be everything from the obvious stuff like what does the packaging look like and how are we advertising and how are the salespeople creating on shelf displays and stuff like that. But it also goes further into how you're managing the P&L. Are you spending money in the areas that need to be spent? If making that morning special means that you have a supply chain issue that's going to prevent that from happening, then that line of the P&L is where you need to focus your attention. So it doesn't, like, you wouldn't necessarily think accounting would be attached to a mission like that, but it really is in many ways.
Interesting. Very interesting. So when it comes to kind of aligning the mission with the market, with marketing the company, as a marketing strategist, how do you kind of approach defining a company's purpose and mission in ways that resonate with its target audience?
So, the target audience obviously is that end consumer, whoever that is. And being able to take that mission and always keep that target market at the center of when you're making big decisions. And that can be anything from, changing the packaging or changing how, if you don't keep your primary target market in mind because you're trying to go after some other market and you end up losing the majority of your market share because of that with the primary market, that's a problem. And so that's where I see that continually going back and forth, the alignment. If you keep aligned to the purpose and the mission of the company, then you're not going to lose the market share you've already gained. And it may, in fact, help you find out where you can expand that into new markets.
So we talked about personal branding earlier. Is it possible to improve customer experience through personal branding?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that before. I would say absolutely. People buy from people, right? You always hear that. People don't buy from companies, they buy from people. And they buy from people they know, like, and trust. So these are all the basics of good sales. Well, if you have a strong personal brand and you're consistent and authentic and connecting with that end customer, the buyer, the decision maker, then they will know you, they'll like you, and they'll trust you. So that's how I see personal branding in a way helps to ensure that know, like, and trust occurs.
When you're being authentic with a customer, can storytelling be leveraged effectively to deepen those connections?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of, I think, the most important things is by listening to that target market and that end customer. And by listening, you'll understand where they're at. Storytelling is a great and memorable way to let them know that you have listened to them and that you've paid attention to their needs. They've requested a certain type of product or a certain size of a product or, count, whatever it is, and or a certain service, and you've paid attention. And so being able to use storytelling to let them understand that you've not only listened to what they need, but also you've been able to find a way to fill that need. And storytelling, by bringing in, examples of, customers just like you, individuals just like you have benefited from this product or service, and here's how and why. They can see themselves, see that they are one of the people that you really do care about. And that will, again, know, like, and trust.
So I know that you're kind of big on crafting an elevator pitch. You kind of emphasize the importance of that. I think there are 4 steps to creating one. Can you go over those for us?
Certainly. So the important thing about an elevator pitch is we are all incredibly busy people, like incredibly busy people. And um, here's the thing. With being busy people, we have a very short amount of time to communicate information to other people. So an elevator pitch is really designed in like a minute or less to let someone know who you are, what you do, how you can help them, and how they can reach you. So one component of that is the introduction, who you are, your name, your job title, what company you work with. Two, like what you're looking for, what your goals are. I'm looking for a new job, or I'm looking for to sell this product or service. I'm looking to connect with other business professionals. And then third, you use storytelling to explain why you're the right person for that job or to meet those people. Here's what I do and how I've helped a couple of people or companies or business owners. And, here's the proof as to why I'm good at my job. And then finally, the call to action is this is how you can connect with me, or this is, please let me know if you meet someone who's hiring in this area, or if you meet, a business owner who's looking for this type of service. So really introduction, goals, storytelling, call to action. Those are what I would say are the four primary components of an elevator pitch.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. So we talked about personal branding and maybe that's how you come across on LinkedIn. What are some common mistakes that you've seen professionals make when they're building their personal brand online?
Oh, that's a good one. I think one of the ones I've seen lately is not not using that headline or that first call to action, that prime, like when you meet somebody in person, is not taking the time to be clear and concise about what you're looking for. So that could be in the headline of a LinkedIn. It could be in the introduction paragraph or the bio paragraph of an article. It could be on your business card. It could be when you're meeting someone and you're networking. And one of the things you should always make sure you focus on is what your primary goal is with that connection, with that moment.
When it comes to your personal brand, is it possible to improve your personal SEO for visibility and search results?
Absolutely. I mean, SEO is SEO. So search engine optimization does not change whether you're a company or a person. So that may mean if you're trying to be found more, which is really what search engine optimization is to be connected more with the people who could hire you or use your services or buy your products. Having more content out there is better than less. Being consistent with your keywords. Again, this is the consistency. If you're constantly being a subject matter expert on certain areas, then guess what? The more you do that, the more that's going to show up. So that's where I see SEO being an important component of personal branding.
One final question for you, just regarding personal branding. What can people do? Like, let's say they hear this stuff about personal branding, but they hadn't really thought of it. They probably have a personal brand. They just hadn't thought of it yet. What can they do to kind of take stock of that and maybe craft it, or else, just realize what it is and put your best foot forward?
Absolutely. And you really touched on one of the most important points about personal branding is even if you think you don't have one, you already do. It's out there. You're being represented in the world already. And the first step, I get asked this question actually quite often, is what's the first step in creating a strong and powerful personal brand? It is self-awareness. You need to go do some due diligence. You need to dive deep and figure out what's out there. So, Googling yourself, talking to colleagues, trusted vendors, or other referral partners, or other people in your industry and asking them, what do you think? Like, when you think of me in the context of my career, my work, what are you thinking of? What comes up? And then having a professional, a career coach, or someone go over your LinkedIn, go over your resume. If you are a board director, having someone go over your board bio, your board resume. Also, a good thing to do is make sure there's a consistency of how you're being communicated to everyone out there who could possibly hire you or want to work with you. So, I mean, I could go on. There's so many things you want to look for, and really getting to know yourself from that perspective, and reaching out to your mentors, to people you work with, and asking them for help is always a good idea.
Okay, good advice. Hey, Heather, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Chad, thank you so much. This is great. It's always good to talk to you. So thank you.
Absolutely. So long, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Growth Plus Exit podcast, sponsored by Newport, a unique national business advisory firm. If you enjoy this show, be sure to share, like, and subscribe for future episodes.